Hello, young drivers. This is Tony Cataldo. We are here yet again with another story to guide you through the experience that other people have had so that you don't have to go through it yourself. This is the who, what, Desi-Drvr, who, what, when, where, and why. And what is your name, sir?
My name is Dan.
Okay, Dan. We have a story for us today. What do you got, buddy?
Okay, alcohol has kind of affected my life a bit. I don't drink anymore, but I did for a little. I grew up with a mother and father, and they divorced when I was 6 because dad's drinking. Mom didn't drink, but he did, and that affected the families.
Okay.
And that was that. Lived with my mom until I was about 14, 13, and I wound up needing to move with my dad. And I lived with him through my high school years. I wound up leaving the house when I was 17 because alcohol was causing a lot of stress on our relationship and making things miserable at home too.
You and your dad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was just, he was okay when he was sober, but when he was drunk, it was just miserable. And
Okay.
and all the standard things.
Welcome to the nightmare.
Yeah, all the standard things came with that. You know, the anger, the weird responses, everything.
Right. He was affected by alcohol.
A lot. And it affected us. And I wound up leaving, like I said, when I was 17. I had to take my GED and to get out of the house because it was just misery to stay there. And we were fighting all the time, and it was no good for either one of us.
Okay, so that's when you graduated from GED?
Yeah,
Okay.
I got a GED instead of graduating because, like I said, I couldn't stay in the house anymore.
Okay.
And I started my life early, and everything seemed to be going okay. And I didn't drink when I was younger because of what went on with Dad, but when I turned 21, me and some friends from the warehouse I worked in at the time, we started drinking and, going out a lot. And me and my father wound up reconnecting after that because I gave him a pass on, a lot of the stuff that went on with us because I guess I kind of understood. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm drinking now. I guess it's okay. I get it.
Right.
So him and I got together when I was 21 or so, and we had a good couple of years together drinking. And, we went out and had drinks pretty frequently. I never got a DUI or had anything personally bad happen, but, he went through a DUI and he had a couple issues. When I was 24, I got a call from his girlfriend at the time he was living with, and she told me I needed to come down to the hospital and say goodbye to my father. He was in a coma and he wasn't going to come out of it.
Wow.
Kind of took me by surprise. I didn't see it coming. I mean, I knew he was in failing health.
Not a good phone call, no.
No, I knew he was in failing health, but it didn't really click until, I guess, then. And I went down to the hospital and said my goodbyes, and he lingered in a coma for about 3 days, and then it fell to me to have to disconnect him from life support. And
Okay. You had to pull the plug.
yeah, he had cirrhosis of the liver, he had renal failure, he was in a coma, he wasn't coming out of it. And if he did, it was going to be with brain damage, and it was bad. He turned kind of jaundice, yellow and stuff.
Okay.
And so I disconnected my father from life support, and having to hear his death rattle and having to live with the knowledge that I killed my father. I mean, I didn't kill him, but I pulled the plug.
Right.
It really affected me greatly, and I pretty much quit drinking after that because I couldn't do that to the person behind me, my son or my family.
Yeah, you saw the effect of alcohol on what happened to your dad.
Yeah.
And then you were like kind of done with that scene.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I was kind of, it really messed me up for a couple of years, and I just quit drinking. But
well, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah, but
one way to learn,
It's a harsh way to learn.
Okay, so I need to keep this in a format that I normally do, which is who, what happened. I got that, and we'll do more of that. When was this, Dan?
Oh, this was when I was 24. This is half a lifetime ago. I'm 51 now.
Okay, so
And,
who, what, when, and where was this, buddy? What town was this?
This was in San Jose, California, where I was born and raised.
Yep, I just got back from California. I have 1 million people in San Jose, California, which is crazy.
Yeah, the same population in that one city I grew up in is our entire state's population here in Washington. It's crazy.
That's near Silicon Valley, and there's a lot happening there.
It is.
A lot of money.
Just south of San Francisco. And he was an electronics engineer, and he was a functioning alcoholic. Like,
right.
He would go into work sober and do his thing all day long at work, and then when he got home, he'd start drinking.
Yeah.
And it was either vodka or it was boxed wine or it was like,
right.
cheap alcohol, but it was alcohol.
Right.
One beer, it was heavy alcohol.
Right. Well, it's a habit, and usually it's hard to get out of. So
it's hard to change unless you have a life-changing event.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have the who, what, when, where. That was San Jose, California. And then why would you say that this has happened with, I mean, we're looking for the influence on your life, right? So why would you say that, well, your dad drank? What was the reason that your dad drank?
He was raised in kind of like the Depression era, and his father, my grandfather, started him drinking when he was a baby. He would take him into the bars with him, and they would give my dad a little shot glass of beer. And
at what age?
He would, like as a baby, like he could barely talk. I mean, he would pound it down, and then he would slap the shot glass on the bar and say more. And they thought that was really cute back then. And Grandpa would get free drinks, and
that's a little bit of a culture. Yeah.
But I guess it was different way back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's what pretty much started my dad.
My wife's family would put alcohol in the baby bottles.
Yeah.
And I've heard other people say the same story, that's what they've heard too.
To make them sleep or to make them stop teething and crying and stuff.
And sedate them, which is, oh wow, what a way to go, What
a way to start drinking, right?
I mean, there's a generational influence, and that is, I mean, it's amazing to see it from the outside. So then what would you say to young people that are just starting to drive and they're in the culture of alcohol? What would you say that your advice is, Dan, for them? How should they look at alcohol? And considering all these stories of all these things happening to people, what do you recommend personally about the subject of alcohol? What do you say?
I would say don't do it, but if you are going to do it, treat it like a real drug, like heroin. It's just as addictive, it's just as horrible. In fact, it's probably worse because it's a social drink. It's something that it lures you in by social, like, hey, let's go get a beer after work. And it's, no one says, hey, let's, go tie off and shoot up after work, but they say, hey, let's go get a beer after work, or let's go to a bar, or let's go,
Right.
And it's publicly acceptable, like at sporting events and at weddings and at everything else. And it's harder to avoid, and it's easier to get drawn into than cigarettes or heroin or anything else I could think of.
Yeah.
I would say, if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you're gonna drink or do whatever, be advised it will take you further than you want to go. It'll make you pay more than you want to pay, and it'll dominate your life.
Right. It's not a positive habit.
No, not even remotely.
Have you ever heard of anybody that had a good outcome from alcohol, other than living with it?
No. It's sometimes you can use it to solve stress or whatever, but you're not fixing stress. You're just basically making it slightly less miserable at the time. But then the next morning when you wake up after being drunk, now you got a hangover. Now you're a little bit more broke than you were. Now you're in a little bit worse shape than you were, and you probably made an ass of yourself and messed up some relationships.
Right. And and I all these stories is just supposed to be so that other young people can see from what other people have learned and maybe not go down that path. Just at least have some reference legs to make some better choices.
Yeah, the best choice, like I said, would probably be to just avoid it if you can, but it's not going to be super easy, especially if you're already kind of drawn into that crowd or if your friends are already drinking.
Yeah.
You need to make some positive choices and not associate with people that think alcohol is just having a drink, because it's not. It's
right.
Like I said, it's going to wreck your health. And it's like, if anyone thinks that it doesn't, take my father's case, and it's like, to this day, half a lifetime later, I still have nightmares of hearing his death rattle after disconnecting him from life support. It's not...
Right.
It's not... There's nothing really positive about a lifetime of alcohol.
No.
And I have like dozens of stories that my dad embarrassed us at parties, and he was so drunk in a pool once. This is as a kid when I was living with him when I was 15.
Yeah.
I tried to get him out of the pool, drag him out of the pool because he's drunk and he's sliding under the water and he's just sloppy. And I had to beg his friends to stop the barbecue and come over and help drag Dad over to the couch and let him sober up. And I got to spend the night at some weird people's houses occasionally because Dad got too totaled to go anywhere.
Yeah. It's a big challenge in America, but the culture is very, very strong. And the reason I'm doing this is because I don't see any resistance to this culture. And there's just so many stories. I'm just going to keep telling the stories, and maybe some people can benefit from it. I thank you, Dan. I'm sorry for your loss with your dad. You know, it's just what you were thrown into.
You know, I used to have a little bit of pity about that for myself sometimes too, but honestly, my dad showed me the lesson that I could never see any other way except
Yeah.
by having that. And as painful as it was, it served me well. You know, like I said, I'm kind of an older guy. I don't look too horrible because I never drank and I didn't pickle myself for 20 years.
Yeah,
you know?
that's good. You learned from your dad's experiences,
Yeah.
and you also got to pass it on to the young drivers out there in America.
Well,
So that's awesome. That's what I'm doing, buddy. I appreciate it.
guys, listen to all these stories. They are absolutely, honest to God, soul searching truth.
I've got 30 stories now. I will have 100. So if you people will like and share on YouTube, then they will be able to find out when the other interviews are coming out. I appreciate you, my friend, and
Anytime.
have a great rest of your life. Thank you.
Thank you.